Welcome to InterParty Conflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we are going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question, Jeff.
Uh-huh.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm all right. We've had another rough go.
Our saga continues.
Yeah, we're
everything going wrong.
Yeah, trying to record an extra episode every weekend, and every weekend something happens.
Yeah, and pretty soon, because I have to work next weekend, pretty soon we're going to have to record our next Patreon bonus episode.
Yeah.
So
it's like, yeah, well, like
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. We're still managing, but it's just been stressful.
Right. Yeah.
And not like because you had some issues yesterday at home that we weren't able to record yesterday.
Yep.
This has been a very bad week for me.
Yeah.
I've had 2 pets die on me, and 1 pet have a very serious health scare. So
yeah, that's really rough.
It's been rough for everybody.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to bring the show down though. So anything good going on?
I mean, I'm going to be going to Chicago pretty soon.
Ooh, the Windy City.
The Windy City. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go to Chicago to celebrate my parents' anniversary. So.
Oh, cool. I hate Chicago.
You hate it?
I hate Chicago so much.
I mean, I never really go into the city, so like it was like when my folks lived in Vegas, like I never really went to the Strip much. I just went to visit them, and that was it.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I've had family that lived. My siblings. I'm the youngest of my family, and all my siblings. Most of my siblings moved to Chicago a long time ago, and so every time I went to Chicago, it was because one of my siblings was moving and needed help moving. Being a male in the family,
right? You have to.
I was, of course, enlisted against my will to go and help them move. So that kind of soured my attitude towards Chicago. And then
there's probably a lot of stairs, I imagine.
Yeah, always.
Like in city living, it's like everyone is usually on like the 14th floor or something ridiculous.
Yeah, something like that. And not only that, but once I was old enough to, be able to be going there by choice, then I realized, I have to drive around Chicago.
Yeah.
And my wife loves to go shopping. So whenever we go to visit family, she always wants to go shopping in downtown Chicago.
Right.
Sometimes I end up dropping her off and then literally driving around the block for 30 minutes until she's done. I hate big cities.
Right.
I hate Chicago in general.
Sorry, Chi-Town.
I'm not sorry to Chicago. So yeah,
I'm kind of the same with big cities. Like I don't even like driving through Ann Arbor most of the time. Like it's just like
Ann Arbor's not even a big city.
No, it's not, and I hate driving through it. It's the worst. It's like so many one-way streets and
my
twists
goodness.
and turns and hills, and
I hate one-way streets so much.
And like you'll be driving down a lane and suddenly that lane is a turn-only lane, but it's like what, like you have to change lanes to avoid being forced into a turn lane only lane, and it's just there's so many it just because like it's not a grid, it's like this loopy weirdness, and like so they have to. But I hate one-way streets.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, I got to turn right here. Nope, I can't. All right.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
And then like the next 5 streets are one-way streets in that direction. You're like, how do I get over there then? Like what?
Then when you finally can turn right, you're like on a bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, like I'm gonna have to drive out there, but luckily they don't live in the city. They just live nearby.
Well, that's good. So before we get into the episode, there's a couple things I want to mention. So last week I mentioned when I think it was Jason S. was the winner of the Chapel on the Cliffs drawing. And I said that he was the one who introduced us to Crit Academy. Apparently I was wrong about that.
Oh.
Now I have no clue who it was. I feel bad. I tried going back on Twitter through my tweets, but it was something somebody tweeted at me. So heck if I know how I'm going to find that. So sorry, whoever that is.
Whoops.
Yeah. Also, when I was editing last week's episode and we were talking about somebody who makes a character that conflicts with somebody else's character.
Yeah.
I got to thinking and I realized that it at first blush, it sort of sounds like I was contradicting something else that I said a long time ago. Back when we were doing our episode about PvP stuff, about like stealing from the group.
Okay.
And also to a lesser extent when we talked about like whether or not you should do something quote unquote because it's what my character would do.
Oh, sure, yeah.
In those episodes, I was saying that like, no, you should never steal from the group. You should never do something quote unquote because it's what your character should do. That's bad and you should feel bad. But then in this most recent episode, I also said, hey, isn't that kind of the point of the game is to use your player agency for whatever you want, even if it conflicts with somebody else. And I thought about that because, I'm always kind of interested when something I say conflicts with something else I say.
Sure.
Because I feel like I have pretty consistent thoughts on things. So when two things do seem like they conflict, I have to I use that as an opportunity to look at why I feel the way that I do and see how it works.
Yeah, you kind of like fine tune what your view on it
exactly.
is.
And so the conclusion I came to was that, it's a couple things. First, if you are the player who is going to be doing something that is going to conflict with somebody else, I would say don't do it. Don't do it unless that is something that has been agreed upon earlier on.
Right, yeah. Like if it's an idea between you and the other player, like wouldn't it be fun if our guys had like a little rivalry going on?
Sure. Or if during session 0 or something, it was said, hey, there might be PvP. If it happens, is everybody cool with that? And everybody says yes. Then I'd say, fine, go ahead. But if you are in just a normal campaign and you're like, hey, I'm making this character and it's totally going to screw things over for this other player, don't do it. That being said, if you are in a group where somebody else is doing this, you don't really have a place to say you can only say what you should be doing. You shouldn't tell somebody else what they should be doing. Just worry about yourself. If it happens, it sucks, but hey, you can make the best of that.
Yeah.
Also, a couple other little things is that stealing from the group, I think, is its own special case. And like, I have a special hatred for that particular because when you steal from the group, stealing money from the group or items from the group or whatever is directly affecting the outside of the game player. Because if your character has less money or less magic items, that directly affects how much you can do with your character.
Yeah.
So, like, to an extent, money is not just an in-game resource, it is also an out-of-game resource because it affects what you can do with your character.
Right, yeah.
So what you do when you are stealing from the group, you are not just stealing from the characters, you are stealing from the players. What you are doing is you are saying, I'm willing to sacrifice your fun so that I can have more fun. And that is a problem.
Yeah.
Again, if you are the person who was thinking about doing that, don't do it. Mm-hmm. So I am okay with a player having specific issue with another player doing that because it is not purely in character. It is something that has reaches outside of the game.
Sure, yeah.
Also, doing something because your character would do it, quote unquote, is a terrible argument. If you're going to do something that another player has issue with, do it because you want to do it, not because it's what your character would do, because that's a stupid argument and your character doesn't exist.
Yeah, a friend of mine's got a campaign started up, and I'm actually going to start playing in it. Mm-hmm. Our mutual friend.
Yeah. I just don't have time, or else I would have tried to be in it too.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited because I haven't really had much time to play, but like we're going to be doing over Roll20, and hopefully that will work out. And he seems very enthusiastic about it, which is good. Yeah. Which is good because that's a good sign that it hopefully we'll make it past like the session 3 mark or something. Sure. Which I think I like. He's very confident, and I'm way behind him. I'm right behind him.
You're way behind him.
I'm way behind him. And like when he had asked me, like the question had come up, like what alignment was I gonna be, and I was toying with being neutral evil.
Okay.
And I was like neutral evil, but don't worry about it.
Okay.
And he's like, but like, what do you mean don't worry about it? I'm just like, don't worry about it because I know how to not do but my character would do that. Like I'm not
sure.
Like I like the alignment isn't going to control what I am going to make the character do.
Okay.
It's just going to control how I think the character thinks.
Yeah.
To me, neutral evil is very selfish, and like, you're going to do what you want to get what you want. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to, you're not necessarily going to go out of your way to do evil things. You're just going to, you're just looking out for yourself, even if that means like hanging out with a bunch of good aligned adventurers.
Yeah. Just like how a good character can be a good character without constantly donating all of their possessions to the needy.
Right, yeah.
You know, an evil character can be evil without constantly murdering people.
Yeah, so,
evil does not equal psychopath.
Yeah, so saying it's what my character would do, it's like, no, that's what you're doing because you are in control of your character.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if it's really going to be a problem for everybody that you're doing that thing, you should try and figure out a way to not do that thing.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I was just yesterday, I was in a Facebook discussion where, I mean, this is a huge change. I'll just be brief about this, but people were saying, like, what's something you don't allow in your games? And one guy said chaotic evil. And my response was, chaotic evil isn't the problem. The problem is players who want to act without consequence and DMs who don't enforce consequences.
Sure.
That's it. If there are consequences in your world, chaotic evil characters will not be a problem.
Right, yeah.
Because they would not have gotten this far killing people randomly unless there were no consequences for killing people randomly.
Right,
you know?
Yeah. They'll either won't be chaotic evil, or they won't do the chaotic evil things, or they will
have restraint.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, you ready to get into the episode?
Sure.
Cool. So, Jeff, I want you to imagine that you're back in school.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know. It's the worst. And so one day you're in class and the teacher is out of the room and everybody's goofing off, you know, because the teacher's out of the room. What else are you going to do?
Right.
And everybody's throwing paper airplanes, or I guess paper airships. They're throwing around paper airships around the room. One kid made like a paper sword and shield.
Yep.
And other stuff, because apparently this is a fantasy related school.
Right. It's a parchment plane.
Yes. So you're goofing around with everybody else, or actually no, let's say because you know, I think you would show a little bit of restraint, and so you are not throwing around parchment planes, but somebody throws one and it like goes straight towards you, and they're like, oh man, throw it back, and you're like, oh, okay, fine. So you grab it and you throw it back just as the teacher enters the room.
Oh no.
And of course by that point everybody else has stopped what they're doing, and so you know, as far as the teacher's concerned, he just walked in and saw there's that troublemaker Jeff throwing that paper airplane, and he catches it and he crumples it up, throws it in the bag of devouring, and he says, Jeff, you are in big trouble.
Uh-oh.
You know where you're about to go?
No.
To the dragon's office. Or Principal's Hoard.
The Principal's Hoard?
The Principal's Hoard. Yeah, you have to go to the Principal's Hoard. So our Dragon's Hoard item for today.
So that's in the Dragon's Hoard item was in like the confiscated like bin at the office.
Yes.
It's like all like
that would have been so much better.
Like the slingshots and the, you know.
There you go.
Slings.
That would have been yes, exactly, the slings. That would have been a better story, but I'm not going to go back and record that. So anyway, the item for today was submitted by Adam via email, and this is the Circlet of Scraw. Yes, it is a wondrous item. It's legendary because this is a fairly powerful item. I don't think it's necessarily game breaking, but it lets you do a lot of cool stuff.
I think it could be.
Could be.
Based on one of the things. We'll get to it.
We'll get to that. So, Scraw was an ancient druidic warrior indebted to the spirits of the forests of Lothri. It's got an O with a little slash through it, so I don't know how that's pronounced.
Oh,
anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I apologize to anybody who speaks whatever language that is. He fought for countless centuries defending the ancient woodland from incursion and misguided humanoids intent on colonizing and cultivating the region. He would spend many hours and days in the form of creatures, stalking and eventually attacking his prey. Over the years, his form became more beast than elf, and the very magic gifted to him by the woodland seeped into these thick brass bands of copper which adorned his arms. They appear to be stained with blood of an unknown origin, and upon closer inspection, it is clearly sap. So, while wearing these bands, it's called a circlet, but I think a circle goes on your head. Yeah. Anyway, while wearing these bands, you have a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with your attacks while in wild shape.
Cool.
And I'm curious, I probably should have asked him this. I'm curious, does that mean your attacks count as magical for purposes of overcoming damage reduction?
I
don't know.
Probably, but I think with Circle of the Moon, you automatically have that.
Maybe you do. Okay. Well, anyway, Also, whenever you finish a short or long rest, you gain an additional number of wild shapes equal to your wisdom modifier.
That's intense.
I'm assuming that doesn't stack, but that means that, like, let's say you get, I don't know, 3 wild shapes per day or whatever. Maybe it's now 6 wild shapes a day.
Well, is this 5th edition specifically?
It is, as far as I know.
Okay, 5th edition. I think you only ever get 2 wild shapes, or no? I think
you get more as you level up. I think.
I think you might be right. I can't remember. I'm building a druid, so I'm trying to learn this stuff.
Sure. Well, so I'm actually this is a little bit unclear, but I'm it is either you. I would imagine that you could go above your maximum, because I think you get them all back when you do a long rest anyway. So like there wouldn't be any point to including the long rest if it wasn't able to go above your maximum. But also, I'd say more importantly, whenever you finish a short rest. So like if you're out and then you rest, I've got like 3 more uses now. You know. So that's pretty cool.
Do you have the player's handbook? Yeah. I do want to check it real quick. Sorry. Yeah, I think you only ever get to use it twice. And
twice per day?
Yep, and it is normally a short or long rest.
Oh, okay. This actually makes a lot more sense now. It's basically just whatever the 2 you get, the number is just now higher.
Yeah.
So, okay. That makes a lot more sense.
And that's really good, because it's like you only get the 2 until you get to level 20.
Where you can then do it whenever, right?
Yeah, which you can do it whenever, which is ridiculous when you think about it, but it is level 20. So.
Sure. So yeah, that actually is that's pretty powerful, but we're not even done. That's not even all it can do.
Right.
Quite possibly the most powerful part of this, maybe. You can also call upon the power of the forest and use your wild shape to transform into a fey creature of the same CR available to you in wild shape once per day.
Right.
So
Fae, some of the Fae can have some really ridiculous like spells.
Yeah, if I recall, there is a fairly low level, like pixie or something.
Yeah,
that can like
summon other pixies.
Which
can summon other pixies. Or there's
something ridiculous.
Yeah, there was some weird build I remember. Like there's like where it's like you can. If there's a certain level spell where you can summon pixies, and those particular pixies can summon other pixies or something.
Yeah.
Some ridiculousness like that.
And also with all the different books that have monsters in them, like I have the Tome of Beasts. I haven't really read through it too much, but like there's tons more low-level monsters in that. I guarantee you there's some low-level fae that can probably do some really cool stuff.
Right, yeah. So like you're adding a creature type is... like that you adding a type of thing that you can turn into it's
a huge deal.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. It's a huge bag of stuff that it's tough to say if this is like really powerful or overpowered or something like that. It could be game breaking.
Yeah, I mean it's legendary. I would even say I would say it's probably closer to like artifact level.
Sure,
but I'm not intimately familiar with druids, so
right. And we'd have to look through all the fae of because at most to be CR6
sure.
The Circle of the Moon can go up to CR6 at level 20.
Yeah, so I think this is really cool. I think that Wild Shape is a really neat thing. I don't play Druids. I've mentioned before, Druids and Rangers for some reason just do not interest me at all.
Sure.
That being said, when I'm in a group with a Druid, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The D&D group that I'm in with some of my coworkers, we were going through Tomb of Annihilation, and then the DM wanted to do something else, so we sort of scrapped that and we just started a new campaign. But when we were in that, one of the players was a druid, and he was pretty new to the game, so he basically just all the time he was a bear.
Yeah,
because we were traveling for most of it, so all we were doing was just like 1 or 2 random encounters a day. So okay, he'll turn into a bear and he'll just be a bear for this encounter.
Yeah, because druids kind of ridiculous, and like the more I've been building a character and reading up on it, like a lot of people are kind of like might be overpowered in some ways. I
mean they bar none have the most hit points out of anybody.
And like I sort of like kind of I knew that was sort of the case, but like when I was building a character, I was looking at druid, but nothing for no specific build or anything. I was just I haven't played a druid yet. I want to maybe see what that's like.
Yeah.
But I was like, I have this wizard I kind of want to do, But then Dave was like, "Oh, the party's a little low on hit points. You want to maybe make like a beefy character?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
I got you covered.
I'm more than willing to fill a gap if there is one, because I don't mind coming up with a new character concept. Like, cool. Like, that's what I like to do.
Oh no, I have to make another character.
And then so I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, like. Yeah, there is like Wild Shape is basically just like more hit points. So yeah, I'm gonna look into building a like tank like character, but a druid. That sounds cool. And then I looked into it. I'm like, oh, this is just mean. Like, it's. I even like saw saw a little like clip of somebody talking about it where like at like 7th level you have effectively 500 hit points or something ridiculous. I
believe it's situational.
It is, yeah, it's situational, and like you have to calculate, you have to like multi-class and calculate like resistance and stuff like that. But like as far as like the raw numbers are concerned, like it's like around 500 hit points or something at level.
Sure.
So, but like that doesn't mean you're gonna be effective. You're just gonna be alive longer.
Whether or not they are powerful is one thing, but they do have a lot of hit points. You can't
absolutely.
Really, they can take a lot of damage.
Yeah, so and they're very versatile and all that stuff. So,
I
mean, and then like, an item like this that adds the Fae, that just like there are spells, like you have access to spells that like some people don't even like. I'm sure there are things that Fae can do that players can't, like normal player characters can't do.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So,
yeah. So I think this is a really cool item. It is very, very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
If Dave ever says, "Hey, everybody, you get a free legendary item," maybe
I'll be like,
this one.
I'll be like, "Yeah, that sounds good. I'll take that one."
Sure. So I think it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Well, that'll do it for the Dragon's Horde. Jeff, if somebody wanted to submit items for us to discuss, or questions for the show, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
I don't know, Gabe. Why do you ask me this every week?
I don't know.
You know what I just thought?
What?
They can send us an email to InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, speaking of sending an email to InterPartyConflict@gmail.com, we have an adventure to give away.
Oh, yes.
Yes, as we usually do. We've got a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs from Goblinstone. Ooh. So today's winner is Tim C. Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. I'm glad that I don't pronounce people's last names, because this one I would butcher it. So
yeah, it's a little different.
Yes, congratulations, Tim C.
Woo.
So you should be getting this within the next 24 hours or so. Once you get it, if you don't get it, check your spam folder, and if it's not there, send us an email. We'll get you sorted out. And after you've read it, go ahead and let Goblinstone know. Let them know what you thought about it, whether you liked it, you didn't like it. Seems like a pretty cool adventure.
Yeah.
And Jeff, if somebody wanted to enter the drawing, how would they do so?
They could maybe. I don't know, like send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Chapel on the Cliffs on the subject line.
Ooh, I suppose they could. That'd be pretty cool. Or the Chapel on the Cliffs. We do have one person on the list that put the Chapel on the Cliffs.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I should say, our list is getting a little light.
Oh, yeah.
So if you enter, you've got a pretty good chance of winning it. If not next week, then the week after. So yeah. So send us some emails, get this free adventure. It's really cool.
Cool.
All right. Also, I want to talk about our Patreon.
Yes.
So we got our patron bonus episode up a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. Actually, one more thing I goofed up on. That was all ready to go out on the 1st, and I completely forgot to upload it until a week later.
Oh no!
So I apologize to all of our patrons. I know we don't have like a set date in the month that I get this out, but I'd like to get them out as close to the 1st as possible.
Yeah.
The whole week of the month, the whole first week, I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, it's already out, no problem. And then when I went to go just put up our second podcast this month, I looked on the Patreon and I was like, oh crap, I never put that up at all.
Whoops.
So again, I apologize that we got that out a week late, but it's there. I'm going to try to think of something to, I don't know, make up. I don't even know if anybody noticed, but I like to keep our patrons happy. So
sure.
We've got some cool stuff on our Patreon. It is patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We've got some good rewards. We've got bonus episodes. We've got some fantasy fiction. I still need to get this month's fantasy fiction written, but I have a cool idea for it. So I hopefully can start on that tonight.
Cool.
So, fantasy fiction, outtakes, bonus episodes. We're going to be doing our, I keep thinking of cool stuff I'm going to talk about. We're going to be doing our patron bonus game a week after this episode comes out. So the day that our next episode comes out after this one.
Okay.
I don't know if you can make it, Jeff, but one thing I was thinking of doing, I haven't heard back from all of our patrons, but I'm thinking about running the second edition of The Mountain Witch.
Ooh.
So the game that my
okay.
brother made a long time ago, he's very close to coming out with the second edition of it.
Uh-huh.
He's going to be having a Kickstarter for it soon, but he wants to get just a little bit more playtesting done. He sent me all of the documents a while ago. I was thinking of trying to get a group together to do it, but then I was thinking, well, I mean, I could see if the patrons want to do it for our Patreon game.
Yeah.
Possibly record it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see what happens. But
yeah.
Once I hear back from them, I think that'd be a cool thing to do. If not, because it is different. It's different than D&D. It's a lot more serious. It is a lot more player driven. So I understand if not everybody wants to play that.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're one of our patrons and you haven't responded to my message I sent you, let me know.
Yeah.
If you want to take part in this and you're one of our top tier patrons, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So it'll be what, week from today? You said
a week from a week from the day this goes out. So
okay.
It'll be on the 22nd.
27th,
I believe. Tuesday the 22nd.
Okay.
So that's our Patreon. We've got some great stuff. Check it out. Even $1 a month gets you some cool stuff and helps make the show better.
Yep.
And then one last thing, check out critacademy.com. Crit Academy is a great podcast. Our friends over there, they do cool stuff. They have a great show. They give you new and reusable stuff you can use in your own game. And also D&D Character Lab. Mm-hmm. They make characters. They debate over whose is better. Yeah. What's not to love?
I've been meaning to go through their episodes and find stuff on druids and stuff like that. Just I have not played a druid yet in 5th edition, so I want to learn as much as I can about it.
Sure. All right, you want to get into some questions?
Sure.
Cool.
Our first question for today comes from Lost Ranger 17. This was on Reddit, and they ask, I have a friend I'd like to introduce to D&D, but they are hanging on to the negative stereotypes from the 80s. How can I get them to look past the stereotypes and see that it's not that bad?
Yeah. So there's a few different ways. And I think that I'll just say that this very largely has to do with a lack of understanding.
Sure. Yep.
If someone thinks that D&D is evil or satanic or whatever, it's because they don't know what D&D is.
Right.
And I'm not going to be in any way saying anything negative about religion, but I would say this is almost entirely because of religious groups who pushed the negative stereotypes.
Sure.
So whatever religion you do or do not subscribe to, I'm not saying that the religion is bad. I'm just saying these stereotypes were largely religion based.
Yeah, it's not. This isn't a stab at religion. It is sometimes people overreact.
Correct. Absolutely.
And that's really where it comes down to. Sometimes people will overreact and then they overreact to something they don't understand and bad things happen.
Yeah. And because this is something that is most likely religion based, it's going to be very hard to convince someone that it is wrong.
Right.
Because they were most likely told this by someone whose word they take as literal gospel.
Yes.
So if someone whose advice you value with your life or more tells you that this thing is bad, you're probably not going to trust someone else who just out of the blue says like, oh, no, it's fine.
Right. Yeah.
So the easiest way and also the kind of shadiest way to convince someone that D&D is not bad is to just call it something else.
Sure.
Instead of saying, hey, let's play Dungeons and Dragons, you could say, hey, let's play Pathfinder.
Right.
Let's play this tabletop game where you act out a story.
Yeah.
It's called Pathfinder. I can be an elf. I can, you can solve puzzles and stuff, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And then nobody's going to be like, ooh, Pathfinder. I remember hearing that game encouraged devil worship, because Pathfinder didn't have that connotation, because even though it is 99% D&D,
right,
it has a different name. The branding is a huge part of this.
Right.
So you could just play Pathfinder.
Right.
You could play D&D but call it something else.
Or you could play a similar but different themed themed tabletop game.
Definitely, yeah.
Something like a gateway drug.
Ooh. I mean,
we're trying to get away from the stereotypes.
Sure.
You play a gateway tabletop game.
Yeah.
But I mean, it like, something simple and isn't the same theme. So like, if it is like, oh, you're like elves and orcs and you're fighting demons and devils sometimes.
Yeah.
So like, that having those in the game could make it a little bit harder for them to kind of accept.
Sure. Do you know, sorry, this is a small tangent, but you know how devils are called, or at least in some editions, devils are called Tenari, and then demons are called like Batizu?
Oh,
and then there's like Yugoloths and stuff like that. Are you familiar with those terms?
Sort of, yeah.
Those came about because, if I'm not mistaken, because D&D got the negative stereotype with having to do with demon worship and so on, when second edition came around, they were like, okay, let's just call them something else.
Sure.
They're not devils, they're Tenari. They're not demons, they are Batizu.
Yeah.
They're not daemons or whatever the heck the neutral evil ones, they're Yugoloths. And so that was very much a case of just rebranding. A lot of second edition stuff was exactly the same as first edition. They just called it something else.
Right, yeah.
And so a lot of those things carried over. Mm-hmm. So you make a good point, which is it might not be the D&D name, although it probably is the D&D name.
Sure.
It is also, well, that stuff that has to do with like magic and dwarves and whatnot. That might send some red, trigger some red flags in these people's minds. I would say if, depending on how well you know these people, your friends or whoever they are that have the negative stereotypes, there are probably some other things that they are okay with that are very similar functionally. Mm-hmm. Try and find out how they think of Lord of the Rings.
Right.
If they like Lord of the Rings, tell them, hey, we're going to play a Lord of the Rings game and then run D&D, but in Middle-earth.
Yeah. That's
the easiest scenario possible.
Sure.
If they like Harry Potter, I mean, I think that it is very likely that if they are following a religious hatred for D&D, they are likely also following a religious hatred for Harry Potter. But
sure.
If they aren't, you could take D&D and play it in a more modern setting and say it's a Harry Potter game. Sure. Set it in Hogwarts. I'm sure lots of people who don't hate D&D's stereotypes would love to play a Hogwarts game. I'd love to play a Hogwarts game.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody has probably made some form of Harry Potter like conversion for D&D or something.
And even one thing I was thinking is I would venture to guess most people who are following a religious attitude towards D&D mm-hmm. are probably fans of Narnia. Are you familiar much with Narnia?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I knew like every word of the Narnia books front and back. You could ask me like, oh, hey, who is that one character from that one book? And I would be like, oh, it's this guy. Mm-hmm. And Narnia is so stereotypical fantasy.
Right, yeah.
You could run a D&D game in Narnia so easily.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much effort at all.
Yeah, you could even just say, hey, you're just playing D&D in a normal D&D setting, but the main characters are humans from our world who got transported into Narnia. Mm. That is such an easy thing, and that is going to be much more palatable for religious people than D&D is, And I don't even think that is necessarily dishonest. It's a little bit dishonest if you don't call it D&D or whatever, but
yeah.
You don't have to be using the D&D rule set. You could use Pathfinder and set it in Narnia, and then nobody is going to know. Nobody who doesn't know that what D&D is going to have issue with that. And the people who know what D&D is aren't going to have issue with it because it's D&D isn't evil.
Or if they know what D&D is and they still have an issue with it, you're probably not going to get them into play.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Some people, you just aren't going to be able to convince them otherwise.
Yeah.
This might even have weird implications. We have a friend, Nick. He actually passed away a long time ago, but I was childhood friends with him for years and years. And I played D&D with him for like 2 years, and he still considered D&D to be demonic. And it's like, dude, we played in the same games. What are you talking about? He obviously didn't let it stop him from playing the game. He enjoyed playing the game more than he enjoyed boycotting D&D for the satanic quote unquote association.
Right, yeah.
But he's somewhere in his mind, he still considered D&D to be satanic, even though he had played the game. I do not understand that. Anyway, So some people you just are not going to be able to convince them, and I don't know what to tell you in that case, other than to say you don't have to play D&D either in rule set or setting. You could very easily, if you just want to introduce them to role-playing games, because role-playing games as a whole, nobody can say role-playing games are evil, because it is literally just you're telling a story. And that story doesn't have to involve magic. It doesn't have to involve devils.
Yeah.
You could play a game of the terrible RPG where you're, I don't know, superheroes or something.
Yeah.
You could play... the guy who gave me the name that we use for this podcast, the guy who said that he was the kind of player that starts InterParty Conflict. Ding. He told me that he played a game of GURPS, the generic universal role-playing system,
sure.
where the players were babies trying to escape from a daycare. Nobody can look at that and say that it is satanic. You're literally just playing a storytelling game.
Right.
Now, of course, D&D is just a storytelling game, but, old habits die hard. People who have these stereotypes are not going to easily notice when the stereotypes are incorrect or inaccurate. But you can't fault people for believing what they believe, necessarily. Or you shouldn't fault people for believing what they believe. So... if you just want to get someone into role-playing, use a simpler... and that not only will that get rid of the stereotype, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say D&D is not the most newcomer-friendly game in the world.
Sure.
There's a lot of rules to D&D.
That's true.
A lot of things that are not going to make sense. A lot of things that will take forever for a person to start caring about.
Yeah. One of the players in Dave's group is a purely new player, so that like he's a little nervous about that, but like that GURPS baby thing makes me think of like Rugrats.
Absolutely,
it's Rugrats the tabletop RPG.
I would play Rugrats the tabletop RPG.
I think that'd be pretty like a tabletop Rugrats game would be great.
Yeah.
Have you heard the theory that Tommy Pickles is actually a Time Lord?
No, I have not.
I think there are actually just Doctor Who references in
that may be,
but like he has a screwdriver. And like,
the
Doctor uses a sonic screwdriver.
I mean, it's not really a screwdriver, but go on.
He uses the sonic screwdriver to do a lot of stuff. And Tommy has his toy screwdriver that he uses to like get out of the playpen and through other things and stuff like that.
Okay, all right. Sorry, fan theories. I think they're fun, but like,
right? Yeah.
Every single intellectual property has a fan theory that is related to Doctor Who. Every single one, because I mean, to be fair, every single intellectual property has a Doctor Who reference somewhere in it.
Sure,
we can be honest about that.
Because Doctor Who's such a big thing. Such a
Anyway, so if you are going to be introducing someone new to the game, whether they have the stereotypes in mind or not, you might want to start with something that is a little bit more rules light. I don't want to always be recommending stuff other than D&D because I love D&D. It's my favorite role-playing game. But I think a game where you can show someone one sheet of paper that has literally all of the rules they need to know. What?
So you were mentioning one page. I was thinking the one page adventures. I was like, oh yeah, like The Witch is Dead. Wait, don't do that one.
Yes, don't do that. Don't do that
one where you're playing the familiars of a witch that is like terrorizing a town and was recently that's a little bit too close to like witchcraft and devil worship.
A little bit.
Maybe not that one. Although I do recommend that one to anybody else.
Yes, yeah, really any of Grant Howitt's one page RPGs. I think they either just released one or they're about to release one called, it's like
Devil Worship.
No, it's called like Jason Statham's Summer Vacation or something. Let me actually look it up. Hang on. Okay. It's called Jason Statham's Big Vacation. It's just they did an episode about it on Hardy Dice Friends recently, and I just thought that was ridiculous. Anyway, a lot of the games that they make are just like one goofy idea. They're like, how can we make this into a role-playing game?
Yep.
And so there's so many games that if someone already has like this attitude of D&D is bad, it's going to be much easier to convince them that it isn't if they don't have to learn a ton of rules in order to determine whether it's evil or not.
Yeah, you don't want to give them more excuses to not play it.
Exactly, exactly.
If they're already not really wanting to play it, if you put a bunch of rules in front of their face, they're going to be like, I don't even want to bother with this.
Yeah. So the best way best way you can convince someone to get rid of the D&D stereotypes is to get them to play D&D. The second best way you can do it is to get them to play a different game that is essentially D&D but isn't D&D.
Yeah.
Whether it is, I don't necessarily condone, I don't really want to condone like lying to them and playing D&D but calling it something else. But if you can just get them to play a role-playing game so that they can see, oh, this is what that 60 Minutes episode was talking about when the people were talking about making a character and playing a character. They weren't talking about like demon worship. They were talking about a storytelling game.
Yeah.
And so the easiest you can usher them into role-playing games in general, the easier it will be to get them to then make the now smaller leap to the same thing but in a fantasy setting. So I don't want to fault anybody for thinking that D&D has these negative things to it, but just because that comes from ignorance, that it's not necessarily that the people themselves think that D&D is bad. It's that they just don't know any better.
Yeah. So
try not to hold that against them, but if you can, try to educate them in a way that is going to be as smooth for them as possible. Yeah, like you were saying, Jeff, you don't want to give them more reasons not to like it.
Right, yeah. And yeah, like several books of rules isn't exactly like, it's not the easiest thing to get into.
Seriously. So I do very much recommend either trying to play a Narnia game or a Harry Potter game or a Lord of the Rings game if they are at all interested in any of those, because it would be so easy for them to play a Narnia game and then be like, oh, it's the same, D&D is the same thing, it's just not Narnia.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like something that they're more familiar with as a story and not a cult, I guess, or whatever.
Sure.
It's like, oh, you mean like the books? Oh, this is like a story. Oh, it's a storytelling game. Yeah. I get it.
Exactly. And if they do have a pastor or somebody telling them Dungeons and Dragons is bad or Lord of the Rings is bad, I guarantee you that pastor is not also going to be saying Narnia is bad, because Narnia was pretty much made to be a Christian fantasy setting.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It's got those tones.
Yes. And I mean, I don't think Narnia is the greatest series in the world, but I would play in a Narnia game.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I love those books.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the things I recommend. Usher them in with some sort of a game, maybe that's a little bit easier to get into than D&D. And if you have to, use a setting that they are more comfortable with. I think if you do that, as long as you don't completely flub it and do a terrible job introducing them to it, I think you can convert anybody from being a D&D hater to being at least a D&D neutral person.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody is going to like D&D.
Right, yeah.
D&D is not for everybody. No. But there isn't anything to hate about it as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, right, yeah. I mean, like, yeah.
There's stuff you can dislike about D&D. No problem. I'm not saying I have a problem with that. But
yeah, there'll be like rules or things like that I'm like, but as far as a whole, like as a concept, I don't hate D&D.
And also, this I don't think this was in the spirit of the question, but I will say aside from the, devil worship stereotypes, maybe they're also taking into account the negative stereotypes of like bad hygiene and bad social skills. The best way you can fix that is get better hygiene, I guess. Well,
yeah, because that played into the stereotype.
I guess, yeah.
Like just the antisocial people were the ones who's playing it. So like the ones that like, oh, I don't know about that kid. Like,
sure.
He's always hiding in his basement and lighting candles and wearing cloaks.
Right. Yeah, so if those are the negative stereotypes you're talking about, which I don't think they are, then just be a better person, I guess. Don't be a jerk to people that you're playing D&D with.
Yeah. Take
other people into account when I guess bathing or just just dealing with people in person.
Yeah.
Don't try to introduce somebody in the game and then be the guy who's like playing a sexy elf chick that is constantly describing every lewd thing that she does. Just don't do that. Don't do that regardless of who you're playing with, but especially don't do that when you're introducing somebody to the game.
Right.
All
right. Our next question comes from Steve. This was on email. How do you feel about the massive damage rule? Do you think it's worth incorporating into the game?
Sure.
So like what like 5th edition has like a variant rule for that, and I think 3rd edition has something like it.
Yeah, so in 3rd edition the death for massive damage rule was anytime you took an attack that was 50 damage or more, you had to make I want to say it was like a DC 10 or 15 fortitude save, and if you failed, you died. Which back then 50 damage was not a lot. Right. You could deal 50 damage pretty easily, even at relatively low levels.
Yeah, and in the mid to late levels, that might be happening, maybe once a round to somebody.
Possibly. Like I would say most of our high level campaigns, everyone was taking 50 damage in a single hit. I mean, like once a round.
I think I built I think we were going into like epic levels at that point, but I was building a 3.5 character that was doing like 400 or 500 damage on a crit, a lot of damage.
Sure. So in 3rd edition, it was a flat, 50 damage in a single hit or more, you had to make a save. In 5th edition, it's a little different. You instead have to take damage equal to half your hit points or more in a single hit, half your maximum in a single hit. So if you have 30 hit points, taking an attack that is 15 or more hit points in a single attack.
Yeah.
And then again, you have to it is a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. But then rather than just dying, you don't just immediately die. You roll a D10, and then there are 5 different things that can happen. On a roll of a 1, the creature drops a 0. So like you have a 1 in 10 chance on a failed save to drop to 0. You're not even dead.
Yeah, you're just at 0.
You're at 0 and you have to make saves.
Sure.
Death saves. On a 2 or a 3, you drop to 0, but you're stable. Yep. So you are out of the combat. However, you have no chance of immediately dying unless an enemy continues to attack you.
Sure.
And then on a 4 or a 5, you are stunned until the end of your next turn, which it sucks, but you don't take any additional damage or anything.
All right.
On a 6 or a 7, you can't take reactions, and you have disadvantage on your attack rolls and ability checks until the end of your next turn. So you're not stunned, but for 1 round, you kind of suck at everything. And then on an 8 to 10, you just can't take reactions until the end of your next turn. So like you are so like you're seeing stars. You can't quite, you can still act, but you can't react.
Yeah, it's like a shell shock sort of thing.
Yeah. And in 5th edition, this is explicitly a variant rule.
Yeah.
So you can opt into it, but it is not part of the base rules. Whereas in 3rd edition, it was part of the base rules.
Yeah. I mean, I say just take out the drop to 0 thing, just because like that's like getting 1 hit, like
it sucks.
Just like getting taken down in 1 hit is just rough, and you didn't drop to 0 when you have more hit points. Like that just sounds really rough. But I kind of like I like the variant rule if if you do get a massive amount of damage in one blow, like there might be something
bad happens.
Bad could happen.
It could be that you're just taken out of the fight for a round, which is what happens when you're stunned, or it could just be that you just can't take reactions because you're seeing stars or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's terrible. Mm-hmm. However, I for anybody who is interested in adding into their campaign, some things to take into account, like we've talked about with like critical fumbles and such.
Yeah.
This is something that might seem cool for your players, but I guarantee you, statistically speaking, it is going to prove bad for your players exclusively.
Right. Yeah. It's going to happen more for the enemies than the players, basically.
Maybe a little bit less than critical hits. I'll get to that in a minute. But if it happens to a bad guy, oh no, the bad guy possibly dies a couple of rounds earlier.
Yeah.
He was going to die anyway. If it happens to a player, that can be a lot worse. Now, these aren't explicitly instant kills.
Right.
They could be instant instant unconsciousnesses.
Yeah.
But a player being taken out of the battle is much less fun for that player than one monster being taken out of the battle is for the DM, because the DM probably has several monsters.
Right.
So one monster being taken out.
I mean, that might have been his favorite. It might be a bummer, but
I guess maybe
there's always going to be the next adventure.
Right. So if you are the player, it is like without question less fun for that to happen to you.
Yeah.
Than what happens when it happens to a monster. So keep that in mind. I don't think it is quite as bad for players as like critical fumbles or whatever, because critical fumbles are completely irrespective of who or what is doing the attack. Whereas with this, I've mentioned previously that monsters, generally speaking, do less damage than players do.
Sure.
Monsters are meant to take damage, not necessarily to deal damage, whereas players are meant to deal damage and less to take damage. So I think in general, I don't really know the exact numbers on this, but it is probably less likely for a monster to deal half of a player's health in one attack than it is for a player to deal half of a monster. Well, no, because monsters have a lot of hit points. I don't know. I'm actually not sure if that factors in at all.
Yeah, that's true. Because if they have a higher hit point pool, then like the 50% mark is a lot tougher to reach.
So I don't know. Just keep in mind that if you are going to introduce this into your game, you might see it happening more to players than to monsters. Yeah. Maybe. I guess I don't actually know. I thought I did, but it is not something that is going to definitely make the game more fun. It might. Some players just seem to think that randomness is fun. I don't, but
and some DMs think that killing their players is fun.
That's true. That's true. We did talk about that last episode. So if you want to use it, I think the 5th edition version is pretty good. I think it's a pretty good way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
Use it at your own risk. Like all variant rules. Yeah. Use it at your own risk. If you want to try it out and then you don't like it, take it out. I think the 3rd edition version was real bad.
Yeah.
Because it was a set amount of damage.
Yeah, flat 50.
Everyone is going to be taking 50 damage in a single hit all the time at high levels. And you can also say, okay, well, you'll be able to make that DC 15 fortitude save really easily.
Not everybody,
but I mean, back in 3rd edition, everybody did get better at all saves as they went on.
Sure.
In 5th edition, if you're not proficient in a skill or in a save, you're going to be as bad with that save at 20th level as you were at 1st level.
Yeah.
Because you don't add anything to it other than your ability modifier. In 3rd edition, everyone did get bonuses to all saves, just like certain saves were going to be worse than other saves. Mm-hmm. But even still, in 3rd edition, a natural 1 on a save was an automatic failure, no matter what. The guy who first ever taught me to play the game, his name was also Dave, but a different Dave than you're talking about. He told me a story about he had a character that was a 20th level barbarian or something, and he was super heroic. He was super tough to take down, but there was a time when they were playing. He rushed into a room with some bad guys. One of them hit him with a cone of cold. He easily tanked the damage. However, it was more than 50 damage. And he thought, okay, I've got a plus 20 to my fortitude save. There's no way I'm going to fail this. But then he rolled a natural 1.
Yep.
Which meant that at that level, that meant that any attack had a 1 in 20 chance of killing his character.
Yeah.
And so he failed that save and his character died. And for whatever reason, he decided not to have that character not to have that character raised. And so that character was killed by nothing, something that should have been nothing to him.
Right.
For some people, maybe that makes the game more fun, but I really don't think it does. I don't think that players should never die, or even that they should never die just as a result of a random roll. But I just think that a combination of things that shouldn't be any threat to your character shouldn't be able to, even in like a 1 in 100 chance, shouldn't be able to just randomly kill your character.
Yeah.
With nothing you can do about it.
Right. And like having a character die is not fun, but having it die in okay sort of moment, it's not even you can't even tell that story. We wouldn't be able to have that on the funeral pyre. It's not it's just
my character walked into a room and died.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Next time on InterParty Conflict.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that the 3rd edition rule was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think the 5th edition rule does a good job of it.
Sure.
If I was going to integrate it, it would be the 5th edition version.
Yeah.
And if the players wanted to do it, I would let it happen. I would keep a close eye on how often it's happening, but I think I think the 5th edition version is the best version of it that could be made.
Yeah. I feel like people must like that sort of thing, otherwise the 5th edition variant wouldn't exist.
I guess.
Just because like if they recognized that that the 3rd edition one was bad, they wouldn't have been in there. And if it wasn't in there, the variant wouldn't exist in 5th edition because it wouldn't be a thing that people liked and were mad that didn't come back in 4th edition or something.
Yeah, because I don't think it was in 4th edition.
Like why didn't they have the I step on a nail that does exactly 50 damage and kills me instantly even though I have 400 hit points? Why isn't that in the game anymore? That's why I hate 4th edition.
That's a nasty nail right there. Here's an idea I'll propose. You suggested taking out the first 2 options on that roll.
Yeah.
What if you replaced them with long-term or short-term madness? I do love the long and short-term madness table. Maybe you get hit so hard that you take, and not necessarily permanently, maybe just like for a day or something.
Right. Yeah.
You now have a madness.
Yeah.
You now go slightly insane because you saw the other side or
you just
something.
got hit in the head so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of want to try that. Anyway.
Gabe's always trying to get people to use the madness chart.
It's so good.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like that sort of thing is fun and interesting because it doesn't stop the game for somebody. It just changes the game a little bit.
Exactly. The worst penalty you can give is to take away the game.
Yeah.
Like this is sort of a weird variant of something that is said, has been said many times on duckfeed.tv podcasts, but the best reward you can give is more game.
Yeah.
So if you can have something where instead of a bad roll meaning, oh, you can't play anymore. If you can instead make it a bad roll means, hey, you still get to play the game, but now you have to play the game a different way.
Yeah.
That's probably the best penalty you can give. So yeah, I think it could be really cool using the 5th edition variant, maybe with the change I suggested, maybe as it's written.
Sure. Yeah.
I've never play tested this, so I don't want to say that my way is great. Yeah. I just came up with it off the top of my head, but I think it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am not against the massive damage roll in this edition, the massive damage rule, but use it at your own risk like any variant roll.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for questions for today. So let's take a deep breath. And let's sit back. Let's toss another log onto the funeral pyre. And this one is also submitted by Adam via email. He says, I have a story for the funeral pyre. In my other campaign, Curse of Strahd, we have had another death. The often mischievous and troublesome Shifter Bard, along with the group, entered Ravenloft Castle. And that's always a good way to start a funeral pyre story. Anyway, because where else is it going to go?
Right.
Where they proceeded into the dungeons. Unbeknownst to the party, they were being watched by Strahd himself upon entering his tomb. Hidden in the shadows, none of the characters noticed him. They proceeded to leave the room, all except the bard, who decided to graffiti on Strahd's tomb. Whereupon Strahd stepped out of the shadows and proceeded to snap the bard's neck silently, halfway through the bard writing, "Fuck you, Strahd." So yeah. I mean, good effort from the bard.
I mean, a little heroic vandalism never hurt anybody until it snaps your neck.
Until it hurts somebody. Right. Yeah. But hey, if I'm gonna go out doing something foolish, it's gonna be that.
Oh, I forget the Dungeons of Dreadmore. There was like you're in a lich's like dungeon.
Yeah.
And there are like statues of the lich that if you destroy, it says heroic vandalism, and you get like you get a little bit of experience for it.
All right. Well, so So let's raise a glass in memory of, you didn't give a name, so let's call him Banksy, in memory of Banksy, the mischievous and troublesome shifter bard. Clink. That'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, a running list of questions asked, and important links, go to interpartyconflict.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, or our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, where I post weekly discussion questions for you. We're also on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. We have a Patreon, so check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes. And if you'd like to submit some of your childhood memories of going to the arcade, write them to us in an email or record it yourself and send it to us at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
Fuck you, Strahd.